Start off with wrist condition stuff's not new to me. In 2006, I was introduced to 3D wrist graphs by Greg Rose and Dave Phillips of TPI. I bought an AMM 3D system from Phil Cheatham and let the learning begin. So when I bought the 3D system, I had 1,000 questions. After I had it a month, I had 2,000 questions. So it's not easy, especially the wrist graphs. But what really did it, there was 5 or 6 of us in this meeting with TPI, and Greg Rose and Dave Phillips were bringing all the groups of teachers in to kind of validate what they were doing, because they had force plates and they had AMM 3D and they were measuring players, and so they brought this, you know, the Hardy guys in and the golf machine guys in and different little groups, and we all had this, you know, different days, and we all signing these little waivers to not tell each other secrets, and it was kind of a fun day. I mean, wouldn't all of us like to be in that situation? So about halfway through, Greg Rose says to me, he says, "Is deceleration good in the downswing?" Or he says to me, he says to everybody. 6 of us in there. And of course I'm, no. He goes, "You're wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Show me." So he starts showing me graphs. Literally the first time in my career I saw graphs. I realized I've been teaching golf hard since 1982. So I saw graphs. So he showed me the accelerations and decelerations of the rotational pivot, the lead arm, and so forth. And we're going through these graphs, and he had some on wrist angles. Well, I have a little bit of training in the golf machine back in that time. So what's the first thing a golf machine guy's going to want to learn when he sees wrist graphs? Got to have a flat left wrist. Okay? So I said, "Show me the wrist, man. I want to see that. I want to see that. I want to see that thing go 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0." This is 14 years ago. So he shows me this, and he's got a really good player on there, and at the top, let's say he was extended about 10, but down here he was in flexion about 10, maybe 15, and right about 3 feet from the ball, he starts moving towards extension. Not in extension, towards extension. But before that time, every golf swing I ever saw was what? Frame, 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 frame. Well, frame, 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 frame. Did the wrist look bent? So all of a sudden, I started looking at golf as a lot of overtaking things. Something's overtaking something else. Something's decelerating, something's accelerating. The first thing we do when we get 3D, we want to see where everybody is in their positions. Where are the hips at P2? And where's, you know, whatever it may be. So you start realizing that it's a blend of overtaking velocities and braking and accelerations is that really creates this thing we call golf. And golf has 2 things. It's a speed generation system and it's an impact alignment system. How do we create speed? David Orr and I are great friends. Guess who gave David Orr his 3D where he learned all that stuff? Me. Guess how much I charged him? 0. And it cost me $28,000 for that system because I bought another one like a dumbass. But I said, he has the passion for putting. I bought mine for putting. Bought the software from Dr. Neal because I wanted to. I put it on somebody twice in 2 months. I said, I don't have the passion for this. Put it in the box, send it to David, and he did magic, didn't he? Nobody in the world, I don't think, has better information than David Orr on how the body moves in the golf swing. So pretty cool stuff. Good to be part of that. So here's one of my first wrist graphs that I saw with AMM. PGA. This guy won the Players Championship in 2000. I can't remember what year, but I got this graph in 2006. So it's got flexion, extension, and I'm looking at all this stuff. And this is all in degrees. It's not into. And now they do it different. Their extensions in a different side. They're on a negative and a positive. That drove me nuts to do that, by the way. I looked at these going into extension the other way forever, and all of a sudden I get your graphs in there the other way, and it's like, and y'all ever drive a backhoe? I have. A lot. I drove this one backhoe for 2 months putting in drainage, and it broke down, and they brought me like a Mitsubishi, and they were opposite. Man, I said, y'all get the hell out of the way. I'm going to kill somebody. Because, all the little arms were in the opposite way. So anyway, that's how I learn. And I'm just going to give you, instead of going deep into the graphs, because I think, you know what, you had some great explanation, and I knew you would. I knew by the time Brian came through here and Scott and all these other guys, they were going to give you some good graph explanations. But what did it all mean to me? So here's something I have in everybody's file. This is in a spreadsheet for every student I have. These are the TPI. These are in real numbers. I know everybody said, don't look at the numbers, don't look at the numbers. But if you're going through a really rigid measuring system, you can look at the numbers. Okay? Something that's really rigid. So this is the flexion extension, and all I have to do for my particular golfer is come in here and fill in his zeros, and then this dotted red line becomes their dotted red line. And then I send that to them in the spreadsheet, and they kind of at least can understand what I'm telling them. I should be. You know what? I might have put the same thing twice. Yes.
Your first three there, 39, 24, 10, on your address.
Yeah. Well, these are ranges. There's the average, and there's the standard deviation. Okay. So if they're outside that, you know what? I copied over my thing. That's supposed to be radial elbow. Okay? But you already got it. You got a machine to measure it. You don't need those numbers. All right. But what really got me is that the lead wrist was moving into extension about 700 degrees per second. That's faster than the pelvis ever turns. So it was like a fifth power accumulator. In other words, if you went truly through golf with a flat left wrist, you'd lose the hell out of speed. I'm like, man, shit. I done read this book for forever. And, I was in a rubber room with a helmet on, trying to understand it. Because, any of us, a lot of us are just driven to more difficult, right? That's why we're in this room. Okay? Two crack addicts find each other under an overpass. They both like crack. This happens to be in room 311. We all like golf. Right? So anyway, flattening the left wrist out was like stupidity in a full speed swing. Moving into extension. Did it need to be an extension? I have a house because of slicers and throwaway people, and so do you. Throwaway and slice pays the rent. Thank God, it's like sinners in a church. Plenty of them. All right, there are only 4 laws in golf. Everything else is optional. So when anybody starts giving you their load about this is a requirement, I'll say no. There's only 4. And what are the impact alignments and possible adjustments? So this here, speed, path, face, impact point. So there's the 4 laws. And this is all of their adjustments, both, no matter what you're doing. Okay? So I only have 4 laws. Some people have 5. 4, to me, path, its vertical component and its horizontal component are different. So I don't have angle of attack anywhere on this sheet, but it's just the vertical component of path. Make sense? Okay? So you're measuring one force vector in relation to the horizon and the target. There's only one force. There's not 2. There's only one. Now, you can add and play. Here's all the options. Which of these is the hardest? Which is the easiest to repeat of those 4? Speed. Hands down. The next 3 are much harder, but which of these 3 are the hardest of these 3? Which one of these is the hardest of these 3, you think? Path, repeating path, face, or impact point? Face. Hands down. How many times people you go with 6 across and the next one's 5 in the out? When you tell them that. When you don't tell them anything. I'm not saying they're like freaking legends, but I had a guy 11 over. He was never more than 12 and never more than 9, never worse than 10 and a half. Like 10 balls he hit. Didn't change. He sucked perfectly every time. He did exactly the same thing every time. So it's path. Now these last 2 for different golfers are harder to repeat. Which one of these 2 you think are harder to repeat for a tour player? Face. So face is what sends them home on Friday if they didn't putting. Right? Face control. Just a big elephant in the room. It's the big elephant in the room. And if I had the total solution for face control, or if you do, we're swapping chairs. I'm going to spend the rest, these 20 minutes, and do that. Everybody's wrist conditions are a little different from each other. Some golfers' wrist conditions on their woods or on their drivers different than their wrist conditions on their 7-iron. And they're both successful. So there's no one for everybody, is there? It's what delivers the club face to the ball that is complementary to the path with a good impact point at speed. There's golf. How many of y'all went to demo day? Y'all remember the John Deere crane with the putter head? Where was the ball going?
Right.
It was going right. Okay? So he put the ball on the face and kind of scooped it around until he got it to go in the hole. I said, what a dumbass. I said, move the ball about a foot forward. This guy was a construction guy. He didn't, they put it where they thought, they put a dot on the ground. So I moved the ball forward, I had to move the ball a foot forward, and the first ball he hit left. And the guy goes, damn, that's the first one we hit left. They got a groove to the right. Okay? So in other words, all you got to do is move the damn ball. You didn't have to change the machine. Holy Christ. If you've ever got the joy of listening to Homer Kelly's tapes, I did. And he says the hands are like sheepdogs. They kill sheep naturally unless they're trained. So sheepdogs kill the shit out of sheep. But you train them, they're great sheepdogs. That's your hands in the golf swing. If everybody thinks hold it like a bird, let it go where it wants to go, that it magically frickin' just lines up like fairy dust. Shit, I did. I played golf in the 70s. I tell people, I learned to play golf in the 70s. We put leeches on people. All right, the hands to work together as a team. If one works improperly, it sabotages the other. Look, I never knew what forces and torques were, but when I had people twisting at the top, I knew the hands were fighting. I knew the hands were fighting before any of this stuff came out. So I'd go have to deal with the fighting hands. The downswing's only a quarter of a second. You don't have too much time to fix improper wrist conditions at the top. So if they're really crappy at the top and you got to get them down there, you only got a quarter of a second. You sure can't think of a whole bunch of things. The downswing wrist movements must complement the top of your swing. Aha. You know what I tell people all the time? I wish I could have put all my slides in here, but I got a picture of Furyk, Tiger, Kuchar. What do they have in common? Beautiful women in jets. Right? So all you got to do with golf is you have to have a transition that complements your top. Jim Furyk does. Matt Wolff does. Right? So this is the same with your wrist conditions. I don't say you let any wrist conditions go because that's stupidity. All right. So your wrist conditions must complement your grip type and pivot speed. Strong grips and slow pivots are like dogs chasing cars. Not going to work very long. I got a slow pivot. You could get me to turn if you put a gun to my head or a naked woman on the ground. Neither would make me turn. I can't turn. Got run over by an 18-wheeler. Can't turn. So you have to match those up. When a guy says he wants to play a draw with a strong grip, he's in trouble. You're going to play a draw, right? It's in someone's yard, then you get another one and another one. Okay? So for a strong grip, you need a faster pivot, or at least one, as I say, that goes further along before it stalls. Your pivot's supposed to stall. Remember, he told me that in 2006. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to listen to the 3 ground reaction things I did on the dual force plates. They're phenomenal, what you can learn. How we accelerate and decelerate both the laterals, the rotationals, accelerate, decelerate, and the verticals go down and up. They all reverse. They all go maximum one way and maximum the other way after the top, before impact in an efficient swing. So a weaker grip for a slower pivot. So Mike Adams has got some really good stuff on that. I mean, I love what he does. All right. My wrist conditions are a high priority to improve lag and correct the slice. That's one of the first places I'm going to go. When someone slices, the first question you're going to ask, why is the club face open at impact or open to the path? You should. That should be the first thing you ask. Why? Is it the grip? Is it because they roll it open to put, a glass of water on it at P2? What's the reason for it being closed? All right? I mean open. And how do you close it? Do they know how the club face works? Well, to me, I like to use way before HackMotion, but HackMotion's like stealing because it's so easy. You should see how long it took me 30 minutes to set somebody up on AMM. 30 frickin' minutes. I had 12 wires hanging off of them. They looked like spaghetti running off of them. And, and then they'd have to go hit. And, it just took people out of their rhythm. So for a slice, my preference, no laws, right? My preference is to get the club. Remember, these hands are not parallel to each other. So if they were parallel, first thing I learned with wrist graphs. If they were parallel, when this one went into radial, this one went equally into radial. There's only one problem, our hands are this way. Now, if they were purely 90 degree, which some people's grips are, when this goes into extension, this goes into perfect radial. But any other combination, one's polluting the other. Got that? So if this is like partly this way over and it's going into pure extension, it's going to pull this one into a little bit of flexion. And if they're, it's just what's going to happen when this affects that. And you can see it on the graphs beautifully. The graphs are just so cool. I mean, they would be, the only thing that can make them better is if they ever tied them into video. It would be just off the charts if you could ever sync them in. But then again, you're charging $800, not $40,000 like I paid for gears or AMM. Best $800 I ever spent, by the way. All right, trail wrist going into radial deviation on the backswing will likely extend the lead wrist. So the trail wrist you start cocking or radial deviating the right wrist for a right-handed golfer, it will bring that lead wrist into extension bigger than Dallas. And then it's like, where are you going to fix it? Okay? You might not fix it on the backswing, but you better gung-ho do it on the downswing. So the same thing happens. The trail wrist moving to extension on the backswing. Straight extension. So a straight extension's this way. So first thing I asked when we're going to have it on two hands. So I'll pay $800 more. So, I got it right there. So this is pure extension of the trail wrist. So even if it's somewhat angled, if it's not perfectly angled, if it's somewhat angled, pure right wrist extension will pull this in a little bit of a flexion. So I have my people take their trail wrist and put it into extension fairly hard early. For a 50-yard pitch, low pitch, 50-yard. Now in a full swing, I said, you're not going to set it that fast, because while you're setting it that fast, the club's moving further, so it really doesn't set until much later. Okay? But that's where the wrists can work with each other. That's a perfect example, and I use that all the time. All the time. Excessive open club face positions halfway down require early pivot stall and excessive grip rotation to square the club face. If that club comes down and it's way toe up, and this is in extension, then you're going to have to put the brakes on the body early to throw it away to square it up. So what you gain in squaring the face up, now the shaft's leaning backwards. Now you got to deal with throwaway problems. That was me. I didn't know it was the 70s. I didn't see my swing on a good video until I was 26 years old. Throwing it away, I could hit it over trees nobody could hit it over. The guys on my college golf team says, how the hell you do that? I thought it was because I was good. It's because I sucked. Ground reaction forces during the downswing will affect wrist alignments. So if you add more verticals, you will lose these quicker. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, by the way, because we have to lose it to create speed. We have to lose these angles. That's what ground reaction forces are to get rid of this angle. So if somebody grabs my shirt label here and drags me straight to the ceiling, what's going to happen to this angle? So there's my vertical, undoes it. And if I go laterally and I go forward and back, when I'm going this way and stop, what's this do? If I'm rotating and I rotate and stop, what's this do? It's a combination of those three things that where really speed comes from. And their peaks and valleys are very close together in time, and the magnitude is very high. There's where you look for them in your players. Because what's happening is their timings are very long between the peak and the valley, or the valley and the peak, depending which one of the forces. And the time's forever, and the distance between the two is small. So it affects it. So I'm telling you, these wrist angles are a gumbo. There's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, it's not like that machine at demo day. I mean, that thing, you know, they built 1,000 of them just like each other.
We have a lot around 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm done almost. Steps in changing wrist conditions. First, explain the terms to the student. I do not have a problem telling them flexion and extension, radial and ulnar. Let's, as a group, start doing that. You young guys, be the one that changes that. Flex, extend. Flex, extend. Use the terms that will be here for 1,000 years. We're working with physios now. They know the difference. They go, what in the hell are you talking about? I'm going to cock my wrist. What's cock mean? Okay, you explain the terms, what the movements are. Let them do them themselves. Move wrist properly without a club, then make them do it without a club. Don't go straight to a damn ball. You're wasting your time. You're burning calories. Add with no ball, exaggerate the feel. And one of my favorite is your eyes are on the ball and your mind is in your hands. You're looking at the ball, but you're paying attention to your hands. They're not just doing what the hell they want to do. And then you add the ball. Thank you.